Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Tobias and I'm going to present our recent research on investigating social and semantic user roles in MOOC discussions forums. I did this together with Irene-Angelica and Ulrich Hoppe, who is also here. So what is it about? In MOOCs, the discussion forum is usually the only official way the MOOC participants can get in contact with each other. It's the only channel for information exchange. Since the instructor has only limited capabilities to intervene these information sharing processes, there is some kind of self-organization of the community. This makes the matter really complex, so complex structures emerge from this self-organization. We have a social network of users who share information, which can be very large and hard to interpret. On the content level, we have diverse topics that might change over time. For this reason, we need to analyze the data in both aspects. In the social aspect, namely analyze the network structure, who provides information to whom. On the other hand, we have the semantic structure related to the discussion content, who is talking about what. From that, we can interpret user roles in a semantic perspective, users with similar expertise and problems, or from a social perspective, users with similar connection patterns. And the goal of this analysis is to investigate to what extent the social and semantic structure in the MOOC discussion forums is interleaved. So we conducted this study on a data set gathered from a Coursera MOOC on corporate finance. It's medium-sized, 1,540 users, 817 discussion threads. So this is the basic schema of our analysis. On the one hand, we have the structural or social analysis. We're using network analysis for that. In particular, network extraction and structural similarity of users, also known as block modeling. On the content side, we model the discussion topics for each discussion thread and derive semantic similarities between users based on that. In the end, we will combine both. So let's start with network extraction. There are several ways how we can derive a social network from a discussion forum. The easiest solution would be just to link users who participate in the same discussion threads. This usually results in highly cliquish networks, since all users that participate in the same discussion threads form a clique in the latter network. It can be used to characterize the cohesion of the community, but it does not allow any statements about information exchange. Second possibility in the middle would be to identify the initiators of the discussion thread and link all the replying users to the initiating user. It maps information flow to some extent, since we have an initiator who usually posts an information seeking request and receive replies. However, this ignores the type of reply, whether the reply is an answer to the original question or a further question. So for this reason, we use the third approach. We try to identify content-related posts that are either more help-seeking or more help-giving, and then we try to link users based on the information who gives help to whom. How can we do this? We start with the discussion threads, then we use machine learning or machine classification to label the posts by information seeking, information giving, or other posts. We used an ensemble of random forest classifiers combining structural and content features of a forum post. Structural features, for instance, are the post position, the first post, second post, and so on, number of votes, post lengths, and so on. Content features are occurrences of question marks, exclamation marks, or also key phrases like different variations of help me, like I have a problem, need help, or help you, thanks, and so on. And yeah, the classification quality is quite good with an F1 measure of 0.75. Once we have the tagged posts, we can link help seeking posts and help giving posts. So post 1 is a help seeking post, and followed by 2 help giving information giving posts that are linked to it. Post 3 is other posts. Will be ignored, so it will not be part of the network. Once we have the post network, it is easy to derive a social network between the users who provide information to each other. So user A receives help from user B and C. Interestingly, only 647 users remain in the network. So we started with more than 1,500. And there are only 647 users that really participate in information exchange. Yeah, once we have this network, we can apply block modeling. So what is it? Large networks are usually hard to interpret, and block modeling is a standard technique from social network analysis that reduces the complex network structure to an interpretable macro structure. This has been done by clustering users with similar connection patterns into groups, and the original relations between the users are mapped to relations between groups. So these are typical examples of block models in organizational networks, where the social relation is a reporting relation. We usually find this hierarchical block structure, hierarchical group structure. In communication networks, the core periphery block model is quite common, where we have a core that is cohesive and some peripheral users that communicate with the core very infrequently. How can we cluster users based on connection patterns? So we used regular equivalence as the clustering criterion. Regular equivalence means two users are regular equivalent if they have the same connection patterns to equivalent users. This definition is recursive, so I'll give you an example which makes it much more clear. So finding a regular equivalence clustering can be seen as a problem of assigning colors to nodes such that nodes that have the same color have ingoing relations from the same colored node and outgoing relations to same colored nodes. For instance, here, the orange colored nodes, they have ingoing relations from blue nodes and outgoing, and also from orange nodes, and outgoing relations to green nodes, so they are equivalent in this sense. And this can be reduced to the macro structure you see on the right. So we have 3 clusters, and the orange cluster is represented in the middle, and there's also a loop since we have communication also within the orange cluster. The clustering also can be used to infer different types of relations between those groups. If we have a regular equivalence clustering, we can only have null relations, yeah? So 2 groups and there is no relation between these 2 groups, or regular relations. A relation is regular if a relation between group 1 and group 2 is regular if each node in group 1 points to at least one node in group 2. You can see it in the middle. And in group 2, each user in this group receives a link from at least one of group 1. So in the middle is a typical example. There are also complete relations, so everyone communicates with everyone, but this is very unlikely to find in discussion forums. How can we evaluate block models? So once we have this clustering, we can rearrange the adjacency matrix of the network according to something called image matrix. So we have cluster 1, ABC, cluster 2, and if a relation between 2 clusters is regular, we have in the corresponding block in each row at least one entry and at least one entry in each column. So it's not the case here. So we have almost regular blocks and almost null blocks. For instance, this block, if we change the bold 0 to a 1, we will have a regular block. So it's almost regular. The same for the block between cluster 2 and cluster 1. Contains only zeros, only 1, 1. If we change the 1 to a 0, it would be a null block. So with an error of two modifications, we can make it to a perfect regular equivalence block model. The goal is usually to find a block model which has the smallest possible error. So now let's proceed with the content part. So first, we need to model the discussion topics of the forum threads. So block models group actors solely based on their connection patterns. And now we need the content analysis to enrich these models with semantics. We use the OpenCalais social tagging engine to infer topics. So the social tagging engine of OpenCalais compares the thread content to Wikipedia articles. And if a Wikipedia article is similar enough, it assigns the title of this article as the topic. So this gives us a bit more fine-grained topics than the typical latent Dirichlet topics, but more general topics than keyword extraction, so which makes it very suitable for our purposes. Yeah, once we have this, we can derive semantic similarity of users. So threads can overlap in their users, but also in their topics. Yeah, but not necessarily both. So in this case, we have discussion thread 1 and 2 overlapping in topic B and C, but they do not share a single user. Consequently, user can have similar interests even if they have no social connections. They have never participated in the same threads. Yeah. We use the thread similarity, the overlap of topics, to derive similarity of users. Yeah, we consider information seeking and information giving interests separately. So we have a user profile corresponds to topics of expertise and topics of inexperience. Users with similar topics of expertise, meaning they give help in similar threads, and similar inexperience, they seek for help in similar threads, are considered as similar. Yeah, that's all the pre-processing. Now, the core of the work is to combine both perspectives, the structural perspective and the semantic or the content perspective. How can we do this? Yeah, we have two matrices. One, the matrix on the left-hand side are the pairwise user similarities based on the extent of regular equivalence in the social network, in the information exchange network. On the right-hand side, the matrix gives this pairwise similarity of users regarding their semantic profiles, namely expertise, inexperience, topics. We use a simple linear combination of both matrices and have weighting factors, sigma regular, sigma semantic. We use these factors to bias the resulting similarity either towards social similarity or semantic similarity. Yeah, there are two questions arising from that. So to what extent is the social and semantic structure interdependent? There are two equivalent questions. Does a clustering of actors or users based on their similarity of their semantic profiles introduce a well-fitting block model with a low block modeling error? And equivalently, we can also ask, does a block model based on a high extent of regular equivalence of users in the social network reflect also the semantic profiles, the semantic cohesion of the community? Yeah, what can we do? We can simply calculate the correlation between the semantic and the social similarity And the result is there is some correlation, but it's very low. We can also, if we plot the semantic similarity on the x-axis against the extent of regular equivalence, social similarity on the y-axis, we can see high semantic similarity goes along with high social similarity, but on the other end, it is not true. So we have users, pairs of users with zero semantic similarity, but high regular similarity, or can also say social similarity. So correlation is not that high. Here we have the result of block modeling and clustering results. The first diagram depicts the block model error. To the left, there is a high weight on social similarity, so the block modeling error is low. And once, and to the right, the weight of the semantic similarity is greater than the weight of the social similarity. There is some kind of phase transition. Yeah? So the block modeling error rises and the semantic dissimilarity of the clusters decreases. Yeah? So we have this goes along with this very low correlation of social and semantic similarity. But on the other hand, the green line depicts a random partitioning of the actors into clusters. And we can see in both cases, yeah, independently of the weighting of social and semantic similarities, we are always better than random. So this means we have that the social and semantic structures are partially interleaved in the network. So this is a depiction of the role structure we found in our MOOC discussion forums. It's a typical core periphery structure. So we have a core of users, group 1, who is also cohesive. So it means there is communication within the group. And we have 2 peripheral groups that are not cohesive. There is no cohesion within the groups, therefore there is no loop. And the peripheral groups are either occasional help givers, mainly outgoing relations, they provide help to others, and occasional help seekers, group 2, they pull information from the forum, but they do not provide much help to others. So a typical core user has usually more posts than a peripheral user. Core users are also well connected among themselves, as I said, and they're usually engaged in the main topics of the course. And we consider them as particularly important for the cohesion of the communication. We can see a typical timeline of an user in the core. Yeah. Many posts, long posts, they also provide references to other similar discussion threads, so they maintain the communication structure to some extent. On the contrary, we have the occasional help seekers. It's a completely different behavior than the core users. They have a very small number of posts, usually 1 or 2 posts on very specific topics. And they might use the discussion forum more as an information source to solve quizzes or certain assignments. The occasional help givers, on the other hand, also not very active in the forum, but they provide help. Reasons to be low active occasional help giver can be, of course, dropout. But also some kind of what we call elder statesman behavior. Users who have low activity, but they provide important information for the communities, and they are acknowledged by the community. So let me conclude. So it is hard to identify meaningful structures in MOOCs. So this is also what we have seen in the previous talk, and I think we will also see it in the next one. Yeah? Network analysis has to be combined with content analysis in order to get a more complete picture of the processes that are going on in MOOC discussion forums. Semantic structures and the network structure is not strongly interleaved. Social and semantic coherence of the communities rely on a set of core users. If you remove the core users, the communication would break down. And the connection patterns seem to be more governed by general forum activity than by personal interest. So we have seen that the core users are more active than the peripheral users. So open issues are, so most research concentrates on the core users, on the most active users in the forum. But our results have shown that it is also worth to look at the peripheral users. They can also play an important role. I mentioned already the short-term impact on specific course topics and this elder statesman behavior, users with decreasing activity but high visibility. Yeah? They provide valuable information but not much. User roles might change over time, and that makes the analytics problem much more complex. So we are currently working on that, and also support mechanisms. So I just leave you with some key phrases: guided community building and social recommendations to avoid redundant discussion. So thank you. That's all.
Hopefully a very simple question. What platform, what MOOC platform was this? Were you looking at?
It was a Coursera MOOC.
A Coursera. So
yeah.
they have a separate discussion forum from the actual...
Yes, they have this sub-forum structure. And we concentrated on the sub-forums that were dedicated to course content. So in this case, there was also a sub-forum, Introduce Yourself, but it is very unlikely to find any content or information providing posts in this subforum, so we concentrated on the main course forum.
Okay, so you were purely looking at information seekers and information givers?
Yes, this was the first step. So we ignore all social posts like join my Facebook group. Yeah, we really were interested in I have a problem solving the assignment, and then there are the information givers come in and provide the necessary information.
Thank you.
Maybe one reason why you have difficulties finding social patterns is that these patterns change over time. So it may be first participation changed because of a dropout, but also it may be that somebody is leading for 2 weeks, and then did you try cutting the MOOC duration in, maybe not in weeks, that will be too small, but in 3 periods, for instance, beginning, middle, end?
So we did it, not in this paper, but it's an unpublished work yet. So we investigated these structures changing over time. So usually you have to split up the whole course period into not more than 3 time slices, otherwise you have too little information.
It was a 7 weeks MOOC?
This was a 6 weeks MOOC,
okay.
And yeah, you would split up it in 2 weeks time slices, maybe also in only 2 time slices. So then.
And I'm just going to emphasize that I think that's an important point, and I know that Ulrich and I have talked before about the power of social network analysis, but the fact that it sort of eliminates all the temporal data, and I think that it's great that you're starting to look at that, and that's something that we probably all need to do because learning's happening over time, and when you condense everything over 6 weeks, or in some cases 13 weeks, you both lose important patterns, and in fact you may sort of artificially create relationships that weren't experienced by the people. So I'm glad to hear that you're starting to try and cut it up. That's great.
I'm curious if you were able to find out anything about if the active users in the MOOCs were also largely the completing population or the high-performing population. Did you see any overlap there?
I'm afraid we do not have the data to investigate this. And we know that the population in the forum is only a very, very small subset of the population in the MOOC, so it might be hard to make any inferences from the from the discussion forum to the overall success. I know that there are studies who say, okay, MOOC completion does not go along with forum activity, but forum activity goes along with MOOC completion. This is,
Hi, maybe a bit naive question. I was just wondering for this kind of analysis, forum activity from staff, MOOC staff, instructors, TAs, is that something that is, can you see that, or is that somehow registered, and how does that play a role?
I mean, it's a good question. Yeah, we have in our data set, we know the type of users. Type can be technical staff, instructor, student, and we concentrated on posts made by students. So we filtered all instruct posts and also posts by administrative staff.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is, for those core users, is there an easy identifiable metric that you can say? You say those are the ones who regularly seek information and provide information. What do you mean by regularly?
So the core users are identified by the blockmodelling approach. Yeah, we find there are pre-specified patterns in blockmodelling, and one is the core periphery pattern. Yeah, so one big cohesive group and some surrounding peripheral groups. This is what we can see from the structure. We have also investigated the activity more concretely. We have counted the number of help-giving posts, help-receiving posts, help-seeking posts, and also how diverse are those users in the particular group. And we could see that in the core, users are more active and they have more diverse communication patterns, so they have a higher outreach, they reach more people with their posts. Okay?
All right. Oh, one final.
Comment to that.
Of course.
We know that this notion of block modeling is not a very easy one. I mean, social network analysis concepts have been adopted quite widely in this community. People usually know about centrality measures, they know about cohesive subgroups or subcommunities, but blocks, these partitioning of the community into equivalent roles or these regular patterns, they are not cohesive. They can be cohesive. The core is typically cohesive, so they also communicate among themselves. The peripheral groups do not usually communicate among themselves. So this is a topic that goes across. And the general point is, I mean, speaking of social network analysis techniques, there's really a lot also to explore beyond the very first order things. And block modeling, unfortunately, is one of these. So that I just wanted to say that as a caveat.
So once you're bringing that up, actually, I had a question about block modeling, since we've got 2 seconds here, which is, if you're looking at specifically just the roles and the equivalence of them, it doesn't entirely surprise me that it's not going to align with the content, because it makes a lot of sense that you would have people taking similar roles but about different content. So the fact that you got only a moderate or low correlation makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a good illustration of how the exact way you're doing the social network analysis may have a lot to say about the conclusions you're able to draw, yes?
And the asymmetry in the correlation goes exactly in that way, so that, say, the semantic diversity brings in this distinction, so that that is not in the role. Yeah, I think we can say that.
Yeah, you're right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.